Buffy is my favorite show of all time. It is a classic. I'm going to be doing a deep dive on every episode of every season, and I invite you to share your opinions respectfully, and this is going to turn into a Buffy Love Fest. The show means a lot to me. I've seen it many, many times, so this will be more of a deep dive in the character development and taking every episode as is, but with a couple things in mind because I have seen the series. Starting with episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth, which is actually a two-parter. This opening sequence is, I think, one of the best TV pilot openings. It really established that this is the type of show that is going to completely flip expectation and keep you on your toes. So the series opens with a former graduate and a seemingly young girl entering Sunnydale High School at night. And this bite-sized scene examines the through line of the entire series, which is a question of who has the power. At the end of this teaser, we actually learned that the Predator is the female character, which is Darla here. You may or may not remember her from Dexter, which is a whole other layers of Kevin Bacon, since SMG is also in a adaptation of Dexter later on. Another aspect that I love about this show is that everything that we see, all the dialogue, all the scenes, all the characters introduced are going to play a bigger role in the series, and Darla is no exception. Now, Buffy is really an example of a classic hero's journey. We meet her when she is in that phase of reluctancy, where she doesn't necessarily want to accept her duties. There is a film that was made prior to the television show existing, which they do acknowledge, where essentially Buffy has already slain vampires before. She is aware of what her responsibility is being a Slayer. So we're not meeting her at a point where she is learning or discovering what she is. She's more so denying that part of herself. We first meet Buffy when she's having demonic-inspired nightmares. This is before her first day of school, which foreshadows her duties and also the setting and the darker tone of the show. Buffy's mom, Joyce, warns her to not get kicked out of school. Again, a nod to the film that happened before. If you haven't seen the film, it's definitely worth a watch just to know kind of where our starting point is, but it's not necessary. Now, Sunnydale is a one Starbucks town that is brimming with mystery and supernatural. When Xander first sees Buffy, he is immediately physically attracted to her. He even knocks himself out because he's not paying attention to what's around him. We also meet Willow, who he addresses as his study buddy. So right off the top, they are establishing that this is a platonic relationship. And this dynamic is something that sets up future conflict. It's very important to meet Xander's character where he is because his mindset, especially towards women, is completely changed once he meets Buffy. Buffy is the person who expands his views on women, their roles, and what they're capable of throughout the course of the series. Also, as a fun fact, they actually have an unaired pilot where Willow was originally cast as a completely different actor. And this is just a really good example of how important chemistry is between not only the actors, but the way that their characters are portrayed. I think Allison Hannigan knocks it out of the park. Like, I genuinely can't see anybody else as Willow. So I'm really glad that we landed on her and that the chemistry between all of our main Scoobies is as strong as it is, because that's really, for me, what makes the show so rewatchable. It's really this crew that makes you feel like you are part of the friend group, like you are a part of the Scoobies. So Jesse here is another part of the friend group with Xander and Willow. He's very aware of Buffy's presence and knows that there's a new girl in school, but he doesn't really offer any specific opinion or new information about her, which is essentially a subtle demonstration of the lack of stance that this character has. He offers nothing and therefore can give nothing. And this is a trait that makes him susceptible to influence and overall vulnerability. There's even a point when Xander says, "You are certainly a font of nothing." And then Buffy goes on to meet her new principal, Mr. Flutie, and there's a scene where he is ripping up her transcripts and immediately starts taping them back together, and that scene always makes me laugh. Really just highlights that she cannot escape her past. Her identity, what it means for her future, her past is something that just simply cannot be ignored. Buffy and Xander run into each other in the halls, literally, and she kind of shrugs off the stake that he finds as something that is a self-defense weapon that girls in LA use. Buffy then goes on to meet Cordelia in class. where Cordelia offers to show her to the library. And I love this because they're organically finding ways to introduce each character and their dynamic and establish the location through situations that feel authentic to a high school setting. So as Cordelia is simultaneously quizzing her cool factor, which is really the AKA can she sit with us test, Buffy at this point is eager and almost nervous for her approval. Cordelia is the it girl, cheerleader, queen bee type at this school. Let's take a moment for their outfits. This is the type of person that she used to hang out with in LA, the type of person she used to be. It's not until Buffy has her first interaction with Willow, when Cordelia bullies her and calls her a loser, it becomes very clear that Buffy, now knowing that she is the Slayer, is a completely different person now. She's realizing that there is no old Buffy. Buffy kind of laughs it off in this moment, but you can really see that tinge of regret and curiosity and this connection that seems instantaneous when she meets Willow, which I really enjoy about the development of their friendship. Cordelia, when we meet her, she is the one who determines where you fall on the pyramid. She mentions a major set piece, the bronze, invites Buffy to come out. Buffy then goes to the library, meets Giles, and I love his little sassy hand when we meet him. He's like, this hand placement means I'm British. And then he places the infamous Vampire book in front of her and she's completely wigged out and just dips. And then everything comes back full circle with the opening scene when we go into the high school gym locker room. And there's the dialogue in this scene that I think really is, must be a staple of the time when they're like, Negley. And that part always makes me laugh. But it's history, people. But it all comes back full circle with that opening scene where we see that Sunnydale graduate is the body that's stuffed in the locker. Now, all of this has happened by the 13-minute mark. Buffy goes and finds Willow and asks for her help with studying because she wants to be successful at this new school. Willow seems to be very intrigued by Giles and his arrival and his love of books, and Xander and Jesse join them in the courtyard, and then Cordelia comes up and lets them know that gym is canceled because there is a dead body. All of this information between the characters, where they stand, what's happening, the tone, the setting, is all established within the first 15 minutes. So this pilot episode is unique in that it's actually split up structurally into 2 episodes and it paces more like a film, in my opinion. But right after Buffy learns that there's a dead body at the school, she goes to investigate herself. And the first moment that we actually see an example of her Slayer strength is when she busts that door open. And it's clear she is not like the rest. She is hiding in plain sight. And clearly she's been called. And there's no escaping it. Up close, she recognizes the fang marks. And that's our inciting incident that kind of progresses the rest of the episode. This confirmation is what urges her to go back to Giles and discuss next steps. Specifically that she doesn't care, but actually cares. Stay tuned for part 2.